Now, brainstem, one topic that is remaining is the exist of the cranial nerves. Now, within the human body, we have 12 cranial nerves. So, I will show the cranial nerves on the inferior surface of the brain. So, this is your brain from the inferior surface. This is cerebellum, this is the brainstem, and these are the frontal lobes, parietal lobes, occipital lobes. Okay. So, here on the inferior surface, the first cranial nerve is the olfactory nerve. Then comes here the nerve, optic nerve. Then this is the cerebral peduncle. In that respect, medially is your oculomotor or third cranial nerve. Laterally, that is your fourth cranial nerve. So here is the relation: first cranial nerve, second cranial nerve. This is your cerebral peduncle, and then on medial side of it, this is your the third oculomotor nerve. And the only nerve which is coming from the dorsal surface is your the trochlear nerve, that's fourth cranial nerve. Now this fossa is called fossa or cisterna interpeduncularis, where it is guarded by the this is optic nerve, then optic chiasma, this is optic tract, so optic tract above and laterally, and below this is a cerebral peduncle. And this is fossa called the fossa interpeduncularis, where lies the tuber cinerea, mammillary body, posterior perforated substance along with the third cranial nerves and the circular villi. So the circular villi is present in this fossa called the fossa interpeduncularis. Then comes over there, this is your pons. On the pons, this is a fifth cranial nerve. So by the side of the middle cerebral peduncle, this is the fifth cranial nerve that exists from the brainstem. Then we come to the medulla oblongata, the junction of the pons and the medulla, pontomedullary junction. Here we have the pyramid. So this one is a pyramid. This is a pyramid. This is olive, and this is ICP, inferior cerebellar peduncle. Just above the pyramid is a sixth cranial nerve, that is called abducens nerve. Now then above olive, this is the facial nerve. The facial goes at the two root, the motor root and the sensory root. M for M. Motor root lies medially and sensory root lies laterally. Then at the junction of the olive and the inferior cerebellar peduncle, here lies the eighth cranial nerve, that is called vestibulocochlear nerve. Then the pyramid and olive is separated by this fissure. This is an anterior fissure where lies the 12th cranial nerve. And the olive and inferior cerebral peduncle, there lies your 9th, 10th, 11th cranial nerve. That is glossopharyngeal, vagus and accessory nerve. So this is how the cranial nerves exist from the brainstem. This is very important from your theory and practical point of view. So you have to study this attachment of the cranial nerve, how it exists from the brainstem. So this is a relation of the blood supply of the whole brain and the spinal cord in relation to the inferior surface of the brain. Along with that, this is also the attachment of the exist of the cranial nerves, how it comes out of the brainstem. This is your picture. So this is your inferior surface of the whole brain. Now coming to the sulci gyri of the cerebri, we come over here. This is from above, this is the diagram. You see, this is the two part cerebrum separated by this longitudinal fissure, longitudinally present, and this is girded by this in between. This is called the fibers of the commissural fibers of the corpus callosum. Then on the lateral side we see the lateral sulcus which is present, and this is a central sulcus which you have already know. Then the precentral sulcus, then this is a postcentral sulcus, then these are the sulcus, this is cerebellum, and this is medulla oblongata. This is the picture of the brain from above. Now coming to the superolateral surface and the medial surface. First we come to the superolateral surface. We will identify the sulci and gyri, which is already been demonstrated by Plavan sir. So first we will come to the sulcus. This is called central sulcus. This is very important sulcus. This is the sulcus which will cut the superomedial border of the cerebrum. So it will be present both on the superolateral surface and as well as on the medial surface. In front of it, it is like the precentral sulcus, posterior to it like the postcentral sulcus. In between these two, there is a gyri and sulci. Okay, and gyri are the gap or the space between the two sulci. Here lies the precentral gyri, here lies the postcentral gyri. You know the postcentral is the sensory cortex 3, 1, 2, and we will deal with that the functional areas later on. And this is the precentral gyri. Now coming in front with the frontal lobe. So precentral gyri is the extent difference between the parietal lobe and the frontal lobe. Now within the frontal lobe we see the superior frontal sulci, inferior frontal sulci. We will see the superior frontal gyri, middle frontal gyri and inferior frontal gyri. So the gap between sulci are to be demarcated as gyri. Now on the superlateral surface, this is the lateral sulcus which has got the anterior horizontal, that will be towards the frontal pole, then the anterior ascending and the posterior MS of the lateral sulcus. Just below in the temporal lobe, so this is a temporal lobe, this is a temporal pole. Here lies the superior temporal sulci, inferior temporal sulci. So in between this is superior temporal gyri, middle temporal gyri and inferior temporal gyri. Now coming into the post-central and in between the parieto-occipital sulci. So parietal lobe ends at this sulci, that called parieto-occipital sulci. We draw a dotted line, imaginary line, separating the parietal lobe from the occipital lobe, and over here from the lateral sulcus there is a gyri called supramarginal gyri. From here there is a horizontal line. So above that this is your parietal lobe, this is occipital lobe and this is your temporal lobe. So frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe and temporal lobe. So here lies the postcentral, here is the parieto-occipital, there is one sulci that is called interparietal sulci. Above is the superior parietal lobule and below is the inferior parietal lobule. Okay, and here lies one sulci that is called the lunate, and we see a small one of these, this is called calcarine sulci. Okay, so these are the gyri and sulci on the superolateral surface. Now coming to the medial surface, the main structure which lies on the medial surface is called corpus callosum, which has got 4 parts. So this is your rostrum, genu, body and the splenium. We will see the which commissure fibers passing from where to where, we will see afterwards. Then just below that there is a thalamus which is surrounded by the fornix. That fornix is coming from a part called hippocampus. So come to the sulci gyri over there. So we will coming over here. This is your the sulci. This is the cingulate gyri. So this is cingulate gyri, supramarginal sulci and cingulate gyri. And over here this is a central sulcus where there is a paracentral lobule. This is very important. Paracentral lobule is the higher center for defecation and micturition. So this is very important area. This is a region by central sulcus cross on the medial side and comes to be here surrounded by an area. That area is called the paracentral lobule. Now coming to the occipital lobe, we see there is a parieto-occipital sulci and the calcarine, it will bounded an area called the cuneus between the postcentral and the parieto-occipital called precuneus. These are the areas which will be identified afterwards. Now the medial surface, we will see the medial frontal gyri. Medial frontal gyri will be expressed on the medial surface. Similarly on the temporal lobe, what we will see inside, this is called the uncus. This part is uncus. Then we will see this is the rhinal sulcus, then the occipitotemporal sulci. So this rhinal sulcus or occipitotemporal sulcus, it will come from the temporal region and goes towards the occipital. So these sulci gyri are present on the temporal lobe. So this we have to understand. Here 2 things we have to identify just in front of the orbital. There is parorbital gyri and the paraterminal gyri. So these are 2 important from the functional point of view. We will see when we will see the functional area of brain. So this is your sulci gyri on the superolateral surface and on the medial surface, which is very important from your tactical point of view.